Hello, this is Brian. Today is Sunday, October 25th, 2020, and I want to present to you an episode of Spotlight on Trees. Today's spotlight is on a much scarcer variety of a very common California tree. Today's spotlight is very specific to this variety, bear in mind. So, what's the tree? Here it is. This is the southern coast live oak, Quercus agrifolia variety oxyadenia. Oxyadenia. So this is Quercus agrifolia variety oxyadenia. I am at Palomar Mountain State Park near the Boucher Hill Fire Lookout. There are quite a few specimens of southern coast live oak here. I passed by a bunch of them when I was hiking the Dome Valley Trail earlier, but for some reason I just failed to do a video on them. So I'm going to go focus on the ones here. So, it is a variety of the common Quercus agrifolia, which is very common from, I believe, about Napa County-ish, near the bay, down to northern Baja California, and mostly within 30 miles of the ocean. However, it's divided into two varieties, Quercus agrifolia. The common variety is Quercus agrifolia variety agrifolia, which is the typical coast live oak, the one you find in the more coastal locations and at low elevations, generally below 3,500 feet. However, there is one variety, which I'm talking about now, variety oxyadenia, which grows the furthest inland and grows at the highest elevation of Quercus agrifolia as a species. So, what is there to say about Quercus agrifolia variety oxyadenia? Well, I'm at an elevation of 5,400 feet, much higher than you would typically expect to find Quercus agrifolia variety agrifolia. So at this elevation, these trees have to be a little more resistant to cold. And another thing is, this variety also grows much further inland. In some spots, it approaches the edge of the desert transition. For instance, southern coast live oak basically ranges from Riverside County, in San Diego County, and maybe northern Baja. So it's, again, I call it southern coast live oak because it's at it's the variety at the southern side of the range. It might be able to integrate with variety agrifolia where the elevations are intermediate between the two. So there might be some hybridization and maybe some intermediate characteristics. But these oaks are almost identical. Basically, they're often round crown trees. They have the same kind of bark. Again, just like the regular coast live oak, it starts off with relatively smooth gray, and then it breaks out into these furrows later on in its life when the trunks get larger. This is a fairly small specimen here. There are some here at Palomar Mountain State Park that get quite large with some pretty thick trunks. So be on the lookout for those when you're hiking higher up. Well, actually lower down by Dome Valley. They get larger. So we're probably pretty close to their elevational range limit. I don't believe they go much higher than 5,500 feet above sea level. If I ever find one up towards like the 6,000 foot mark, I'll be sure to document it, but I don't believe it will grow that high. So, how do you tell them apart? If you're just looking at a tree, how do you tell them apart besides, context like elevation and stuff like that? Well, the leaves are basically the same. They're, especially the ones on the outside of the crown, tend to be heavily convex. In other words, curled down from the midrib here. However, the hairiness underneath the leaves is basically the cue. If you look here, you can see tufts of hair in the angles of the veins, which is typical for Quercus agrifolia variety agrifolia. However, there's also hairiness. It's kind of harder to see here, but you can kind of see like a white fuzzy foam, like color. The leaves, the undersides of the leaves are usually mostly to almost completely covered in hair. Of course, like the coast live oak, it's most pronounced at the junction of the veins. As you see here, you can see the tufts of hair are, but the rest of the underside of these leaves also has hair. The regular coast live oak variety agrifolia typically does not do that. Now, like all varieties of coast live oak, it is a red oak. It's in the group Lobatae or Erythrobalanus, whichever you prefer. They're both known by both names. So they have the propensity to hybridize with other oaks that are in the red oak group. And here at Palomar Mountain, you also have Quercus kellogii, the California black oak, with which it grows quite a bit here. So they have been known to hybridize, and I have seen hybrids between the two, between Quercus agrifolia variety oxyadenia and Quercus kellogii. And that makes the gander oak, Quercus ganderi. And the leaves are intermediate between the two. The leaves are thicker and waxier, like coast live oak, but show some evidence of lobation, like the California black oak, but not nearly as strong. And the leaves are a little bit darker green on the hybrid gander oak. Check out one of my videos called Hybrid Oak Treat, Palomar Mountain. So be sure to check out that video where I highlight a gander oak that I find. So again, it's your just like your typical coast live oak. The outside leaves are usually smaller. You can see here, one's outside of the crown because they don't need to stretch out to grab the sunlight. The leaves on the inside of the crown are a little bit larger because they need more surface area to photosynthesize. These leaves are a little bit bigger down here. So, and we got the acorns. These are the acorns of the southern coast live oak. Pretty much just like the regular variety agrifolia. Kind of, you can see here, kind of a relatively thin acorn cup and a narrow seed itself. And just like the regular variety agrifolia, variety oxyadenia ripens in one growing season, which is very unusual for red oaks. Again, it is a red oak, but the acorns ripen in one growing season. So anything that's fertilized in anything that was fertilized in April of 2020 is ripening now in October and in November 2020. And like I said, the other red oaks, 2 growing seasons. It also grows with Quercus wizlazeni. Quercus wizlazeni variety wizlazeni, and more likely with Quercus wizlazeni variety frutescens, the interior live oak, which also has similar acorns. Interior live oak has very similar acorns, very similar acorn cups, kind of thin. But what gives this away as a coast live oak is, like I said, the tufts of hair at the axils of the veins and the very strong convex, curvy nature of the foliage. So just like Quercus agrifolia variety agrifolia, trees are kind of round, you see here, kind of round, and then with age they become very crooked and irregular, and sometimes get very large trunks on them. Fortunately, I don't have any examples here to show you. Fortunately, should have done this video when I was in Lower French Valley. Here's a drier oak here. Not getting as much water on my camera. You can see here, typical. So, I said the main diagnostic feature is the hairiness underneath the leaves. Much hairier under variety oxyadenia than it is under variety agrifolia. So this is kind of a typical structure. You see kind of a roundish crown. Starts off with a single trunk. But like other coast live oaks, they can sometimes branch very close to the base and appear to, or actually have, multiple trunks. And as I said, trees can get some quite large trunks. If you hike the Doan Valley Nature Trail to the lower French Valley Trail, you'll find much larger examples of Quercus agrifolia variety oxyadenia. So, like I said, Riverside and San Diego counties, higher up than your typical variety agrifolia, so they can tolerate a little bit more cold. Because I've been here in winter when there was snow on the ground, and sometimes you just don't equate coast live oaks and snow. So there you have it. Quercus agrifolia variety oxyadenia, southern coast live oak. This was Brian, another episode of Spotlight on Trees. I hope you found this video informative and interesting, and I'll see you on another episode coming soon.